Assalamualaikum, welcome to Group 5. For today, my friends and I will present for the legal case of Cenco Incorporated versus Seidman and Seidman in 1982. So, let's get started. Today, I will introduce the case of Cenco Incorporated versus Seidman and Seidman 1982, which is an important case about fraud and the role of auditors. To give you a brief overview, Cenco Incorporated was involved in a fraudulent scheme where management overstated inventory values and inflated profits to make the company look better than it really was. This misled to investors, creditors and insurance companies. The external auditors, Seidman and Seidman, were blamed for not detecting the fraud during their audit. So, the main question was, should the auditor be held responsible for not uncovering a fraud that the company's own management had set up? In the end, the court ruled in favor of the auditors, Seidman and Seidman, but Cenco Incorporated lost the case. The court decided that since Cenco's management actively participated in the fraud, the company could not hold the auditors responsible. This case highlights the principle that management has the main responsibility to prevent fraud, while auditors have supporting role. In the next part, my friends will explain the case in more detail, including the arguments, the court's reasoning, and the lessons we can learn from this decision.
Hello everyone, today I'll be discussing an important legal case that highlights the roles and responsibilities of auditors in detecting corporate fraud, Cenco Incorporated versus Seidman and Seidman 1982. Let's dive into the facts of the case. The case revolves around Cenco Incorporated, a publicly traded company. Over several years, senior management at Cenco engaged in fraudulent activities to inflate the value of the company's inventory and earnings. Why? To mislead investors and creditors and to artificially maintain or increase the company's stock price. During this time, Cenco's financial statements were audited by the firm Seidman and Seidman, a well-regarded external auditing firm. However, the auditors failed to detect the fraudulent activities. This led to a lawsuit against them for alleged negligence in fulfilling their professional responsibilities. When the fraud was finally uncovered, Cenco's stock price plummeted, causing significant financial losses to investors and creditors who had relied on the audited financial statements. In response, Cenco filed a lawsuit against Seidman and Seidman, claiming that the auditors were negligent. But the central legal issue was this: could Cenco as a corporation hold its auditors liable for damages caused by the fraud committed by its own management? The court's decision hinged on the principle of imputation. This legal doctrine attributes the knowledge and actions of a corporation's agent, in this case its management, directly to the corporation itself. The court ultimately ruled in favor of Seidman and Seidman. The reasoning? Because Cenco's own management orchestrated the fraud, the corporation could not claim damages caused by its own misconduct. This case is a critical reminder of the importance of corporate governance and the limitations of auditor liability. It also underscores the need for companies to establish robust internal controls to prevent fraud. I hope this overview helps the audience to understand the key elements of the Cenco case.
Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is MOHAMAD bin ROHIZI and my register number 068782. So my part is about liability of auditors. They got two of it. The first one is defensive claims of management wrongdoing. So in this case, the court does not recognize when the management itself is involved in the fraud. So it can significantly block the auditor's ability to detect such fraud. So what the auditors did is they made a diligent attempt to follow up fraud indicators, but the concerted efforts from Cenco's management to conceal the fraud prevented the auditors from discovering it. We move to the next auditor's liability, which is contributory negligence of management. The court found that the fraudulent acts of Cenco's management significantly contributed to the fraud that auditors already found. Therefore, the auditors could not be held liable for not detecting the fraud due to active deceptions from the management itself. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad AFIAN bin Muhammad ANUAR and my matrix number is 067939. I will present the part of auditor's defense. So what is the auditor's defense? Auditor's defense refers to the justification an auditor presents to counterclaims of negligence or misconduct, demonstrating adherence to professional standards, due diligence and reasonable judgment during their work. So the case that we will review is Cenco Inc. v. Seidman and Seidman. So the summary of the case is Cenco Inc. sued its auditors, Seidman and Seidman, for professional malpractice, alleging that the auditors failed to detect fraudulent activities perpetrated by Cenco's own management. This fraud inflated the company's financial position to boost stock price and facilitated acquisition. The fraud was eventually uncovered, leading to significant losses for shareholders and other stakeholders. The first point is auditor diligence and industry standard. The court highlighted auditor diligence and adherence to industry standard. Auditor must exercise professional skepticism, detect fraud signs, and ensure compliance with generally accepted auditing standard. And Seidman defend their action by asserting that they already performed their audit in accordance with the GAAP. Next, no duty to detect sophisticated fraud. The court acknowledged auditors are not duty-bound to detect sophisticated frauds internationally held by the management. Auditors' responsibility focus on reasonable assurance under GAAP, not guaranteeing fraud detection, especially when collusion obstructs standard auditing procedure. And the last one is absence of causation. The court emphasized the absence of causation as a defense. It rules auditors were not liable if their action did not directly cause the plaintiff losses. In this case, management intentional fraudulent activities, not the auditor's alleged negligence, were deemed the primary cause of harm to shareholders or creditors. Seidman argued that the fraudulent activities were conducted to benefit Cenco Incorporation itself and its shareholders by inflating stock prices for profit. Thus, the company and its shareholders were not innocent victims. Other than that, there are a few other points that are related to auditors' defense, which is management misrepresentation. The fraudulent activities were orchestrated by Cenco's senior management, who deliberately misled the auditors and provided false information. The second one is reliance on representation. As an auditor, they had relied on management representation, which were ostensibly credible and were supported by false documentation. The last one is duty of auditor. They asserted that auditors are not guarantors of a company's financial statement, but are only required to exercise reasonable care and diligence in their audit. In conclusion, this case is a landmark in auditor liability, emphasizing the balance between auditor responsibility and the fraudulent action of corporate management. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is HUMAIRA binti ZAIDI and my matrix number is 066877. So now, in this part here, I will be discussing the legal case Cenco Incorporated versus Seidman and Seidman 1982. This case highlights critical legal and auditing principles involving fraud, breach of contracts and professional negligence. It also explores the roles and responsibilities of auditors in uncovering fraud within a company. So, this case revolves around three major legal concepts. Number one, breach of contract. This occurs when a party fails to fulfill obligation stated in an agreement. Here, the auditor were accused of failing to detect fraud, which was part of their responsibility in the engagement letter. Secondly, professional negligence. This refers to a failure to exercise reasonable care and diligence expected of professionals, resulting in harm. The auditor were accused of not performing their duties with the care required to uncover the fraud. And lastly, fraud. Fraud involved intentionally misrepresenting or concealing facts for personal gains. In this case, Cenco's management engaged in fraudulent activities that deliberately obstructed the auditor's ability to uncover the truth. Other than that, this case also emphasizes the importance of auditing principles. Firstly, due professional care. Auditors must conduct their work diligently and with professional skepticism. However, auditors are not expected to uncover fraud in every case, especially when management actively conceals it. Next, management responsibility. Management is primarily responsible for preventing and detecting fraud within a company. Auditors provide an independent check but rely on management to provide useful information. Third one is fraud detection. While auditors must assess fraud risks and design procedures to address them, deliberate obstruction limits their ability to uncover fraud. And lastly, liability in audits. This case highlights that auditors are not automatically liable for failing to detect fraud if management misconduct interferes with the audit process. For the next point, I will discuss the significant implication for auditing practices. First and foremost, fraud risk assessment. Auditors need to perform thorough fraud risk assessments and implement appropriate audit procedures. Secondly, improve documentation. Auditors must document all procedures and evidence to demonstrate diligence in their work. Next is written representation. While auditors obtain written statement from management, they must also rely on independent evidence, not just management claims. And the last one is legal liability awareness. Auditors must understand their responsibilities under auditing standard to defend against legal claims of negligence of breach. While auditors are not infallible, they must demonstrate diligence and adherence to professional standards. Improved fraud detection techniques and awareness of management fraud risks have since shaped auditing practices. So, to avoid similar issues in the future, auditors can implement the following recommendations. Number one, strengthen fraud detection procedures. Use surprise audits, external confirmation and analytical techniques. Number two, maintain independence and professional skepticism at all times. Number three, enhance training and awareness on recognizing signs of fraud and management. And lastly, document extensively to demonstrate compliance with standards. By following these practices, auditors can mitigate risk, improve audit quality, and maintain trust with stakeholders. In conclusion, the Cenco Incorporated versus Seidman and Seidman case highlights the challenges auditors face when fraud is concealed by management. It also clarifies that auditors are not automatically liable for failing to detect fraud if they act diligently. This case led to stronger fraud detection procedures and greater emphasis on professional skepticism. By staying vigilant, enhancing fraud assessment, and documenting their work truly, auditors can fulfill their responsibilities while protecting themselves from legal liability.